Hello, everybody. Welcome back to some more blueprints. StreamerBot is acting a little bit strange. It's not liking the YouTube chat in particular, although I think that the Twitch chat is working, so I'll try my best to read both chats, but it may not work. Unsure. But in the meantime, I should go over what I've done. I've kind of took a little bit of time and rewatched the VOD of a new Clue book that we rented from the library, and messed around with the little spines of the books that were there to try to get some more information to decrypt those what they were saying. And they weren't hard, they just took some doing because I don't know, not used to descrambling words, I suppose. But the roll the sixes, the very last one, was of course the fixed stars, and that was kind of shown in the book, kind of showing you this is what you're supposed to do. The second one, or the top book I should say, the red one, was what was the original? Tender Cipher, that's right, and that rearranged is The Red Prince. Under that was I think Lunar Renamed, and that was Realm and Rune. And then the third one, the purple one, Uncle Ah, was A New Clue. The only issue is it was pointing to specific words in those books, and I really wasn't sure which word it was trying to point to, because it had that little sequence X, Y, Z, A, B, C, and end in one of the notes was pointed at C. But it also said assume that it starts, the page numbers start from the title page. So I'm not sure if I'm supposed to start with C being the end and go backwards, or if I'm supposed to start at the title page going forwards. It's a little bit strange. Another thing that I did was went back and actually read all of the signs that were shown. And if you lay out all the signs in order, it says Route 8, depart, keep left to Tanner Fork, yield right yellow, dead end, record each stop along the way. So I went to my recording of the train station map that we see in the abandoned train station, and followed that route and came up with the stops that were shown were stop 8, which was a major stop, stop 7, which was a minor stop, stop 3, which was a minor stop, step 10, which is a major stop, stop 1, which was a major stop, and then stop 13, which was major and the dead end. In order, the stops were Royal Station, Angel Tower, Ares Crossing, Tanner Fork, Oris Train Hall, and then Dead End. What that means, I don't know, but I have these little notes with me, and that's pretty cool. Hopefully, that will shed some light on what we're trying to do. I also unlocked Dare Mode last time we played. So I'll probably start up trying to do Dare Mode soon. I'm guessing what I'll do is I'll try to unlock the Schoolhouse Trophy and maybe the 8th Room Trophy in this run. Again, I don't know anything about the 8th room except that I haven't been there yet. So I'm assuming you need to reach rank 8 with it being the 8th room you draft, so you need to like beeline forwards from the starting room. But I could be wrong. It feels like there's something else I need to do. Yes, I want to get the key from the tomb and then unlock the diary in Her Ladyship's chamber. Those are kind of the goals right now. That was a big introduction, but without any further ado, let's get into it. I'm also still sick, so I'm not sure how much I'll be able to talk. I think I'll be alright, but Day 52. I think that was 52. I'll be honest, I wasn't looking. Oh, so interesting. You just get this every single time now. Huh. Well, I definitely take the repellent. Sure. We don't have the, oh my goodness. I have YouTube open on the side so I can read YouTube chat, but, the video part is distracting me. There, we'll just do that. Okay. We no longer have the, what is it? The foundation. And I don't think we'll be able to draft it for like another in-game week. The real question is, do I try to get to rank 8 first, or do I try to go and grab the schoolhouse? I think I'll go and try to get the schoolhouse one done. I think it'll be quite the ordeal to reach rank 8, and it might just, or try to reach like room 8 by going just straight up. That might be difficult and require a lot of resetting. So if I have the option to do other things, I think I would prefer to do those other things. But I don't have the option to do other things. So I think I'll go for the tool shed. I might, in order for this one to work, I might need to draft the tool shed and get the brass compass so that I'm more likely to be pointed north. But I'm honestly unsure. So to grab the lockpick kit, metal detector, and then I have the repellents. Very nice. Let's try to see how far we can get here. Yoink. Chamber of Mirrors. Well, unfortunately, we cannot do that anymore this run, but that's fine. I'll go ahead and draft it, see if we can get any funny shenanigans going on. I kind of meant to choose the den there, but what I chose isn't bad. I think I will go for the Nook, but I might not go for the library. Oh, I probably have a book to read in the library, actually. Yeah, I would think I will go for that. And then try to take a turn right and face upwards. Ooh, here we go. The Curse of Blackbridge by Redford Ewing. Forward. The legend of Blackbridge is one that's well known to the people of the Grand Realm, for the versions of this tale have been passed down from generation to generation. With each new telling, the story has changed, becoming over the years more colorful, more verbose, and as one might expect, increasingly horrifying. However, with so many renditions and unique personal touches, the task of confining and binding this tale to text seemed an ambitious and impossible challenge. Over the course of my research, I have heard dozens of variations of the legend, and while the details would often change, I was surprised how much of the story's heart remained the same. Yet, the more I listened, the clearer it became that there could never be a definitive version of this tale, capable of capturing all the wonder of the myth of Blackbridge. In the end, I chose to write down what I felt most authentic, the story my grandmother told me as a boy long ago. Part 1. The Berry Picker from Oris. Interesting. Holly. Many years ago, before peace had become a familiar word, there lived a group of rogues so wayward that the locals deemed it appropriate to call their number the Unholy Hounds. They were feral outlaws composed of society's worst, and in time, when the society They were feral outlaws composed of society's worst in a time when the society was at its worst. And for each crime that fearful travelers credited to the group, a dozen more lay unclaimed, each worse than the last. For the gentry, however, who often valued their coffers more than their companions, no crime could measure more wicked than the group's primary enterprise, high road robbery. One such member of the so called band of rogues was a boy 13 years, Jesper, who had not been lucky in life, having lost two brothers to war and parents to famine. In the years of hunger that followed, Jesper lived in a gutter behind a churchyard, relying on the nourishment of scurrying bugs and weeds harvested from the cracks of the alleyways to sustain his painful existence. It is not surprising that a child aiming to escape such hardships would take an easy road out, an easy and well-traveled road, paved with temptations, leading out of the city and into the gentry lands where loose purse strings entwine with the strands of salvation and glistening equally with the hope of opportunity. It was this road that eventually led Jasper to the end of his youth, a hidden cave at the bottom of Blackbridge Canyon. It was here that he met his surrogate family and saviors, that notorious gang of godless outlaws known as the Unholy Hounds. Despite the hardened circumstances that led him to this vocation of banditry, Jesper was surprisingly tender-hearted and was often teased by the group for being too kind for such an ignoble life. For this reason, Jesper was assigned the innocent role of berry picker. It was not just innocence that set berry picking apart from the gang's more wicked undertakings, for it was the only duty performed without the safety of night's concealment. Jesper, no stranger to solitude, did not protest that he worked alone while the others slept soundly, tucked away in the cave at the bottom of Blackbridge Canyon. On one such occasion, Jesper decided to get an early start. He left the cave, berry basket in hand, and set out into the woods before the morning sun had even brushed against the tallest treetops. It was colder in the mornings, but the headway dawn afforded meant Jesper could reach the furthermost berry patches without worrying about being chastised for tarrying upon his return. It took over 3 hours on foot to reach his destination, and along the way, Jesper is passed by many a familiar bush, all priorly pillaged and so left bereft of berries that one would have dedicated several moments in earnest examination before finding a single one. Jesper was patient, but even patience has its limits. He was confident that even accounting for the time he lost to this long stretch of travel, his efforts would be well worth the pains. Surveying the patches in this new grove surprised Jesper. The red dots suspended among the leaves seemed as numerous as stars in the skies. Upon seeing such a bounteous sight, he clutched his berry basket tightly and nearly toppled over out of joy. Once he had regained his senses, Jesper quickly made a decision. He would not reveal the location of this newfound treasure. Instead, he would earn the respect of his confidants, who, upon seeing his yield, might attribute the success to hard work. Smiling at his plan, Jesper set off to fill his basket and was making steady strides in this task when the sound of thundering hoofs interrupted him. Interesting. A carriage! A carriage is approaching! The thought of it made Jasper freeze. He had been so enchanted by his discovery that he had neglected to observe his surroundings. How could a roadway be so close? He ducked down and crept forward towards the impending sound, hiding behind one of the larger berry bushes. It was only a moment before the sound's source revealed itself. Within 50 paces of where Jasper hid, an elegant carriage with gold trim came soaring around the corner of trees, led by two beautiful white horses, and conveyed by stern-looking drivers seated atop the vehicle, flaunting the most sophisticated regalia Jasper has ever seen. It was not just any carriage, it was a royal carriage. Even without ever having witnessed such a sight before, Jesper was certain. The sight of it had the sight had so transfixed Jesper that he stood awestruck, unable to tear away his carriage, unable to tear away as the carriage approached. The little concealment of the bush provided was soon proven unequal to the driver's lofty perch, and upon spotting the boy, he pulled the reins with such effect that the noble steed slid to a sudden halt with precise control. "You boy, get out from behind that bush!" he shouted, with a rigidity that betrayed a modest amount of fear. "You startled me half to death, coming around the bend of my own drive, and seeing such an unfamiliar face in a place where there ought not to be any face." Jesper quickly contemplated running. The man was much older, and his dress was suitable for courtly behavior, not dashing through the bramble and mud. I was picking berries." Jesper raised the half-filled basket up to allow the driver to see the proof of his words. The demeanor of the man suddenly changed. It was a change that Jesper was familiar with. He had many times seen the same stern expression on the most fiendish bandits melt away when presented with a berry basket. Any any suspicions that the driver might have had instantly evaporated, for even the notion of a member of the unholy hounds picking berries seemed farcical. The softened expression even made allowances for a smile. "Berries, eh? Say, couldn't have picked a better spot for them, could you? I used to pick berries here as a boy." Jesper took his cue to finally step forward out from behind the bush, proudly brandishing his basket. "I know, and what luck I found them. I have only just begun picking, and look how many I have. It would have taken me fourfold the time back at home to procure this number." The driver bent down for a closer look. "And where is your home, boy? It must be quite far." Jesper replied with a scripted response. "A little south of Tanner Fork, just past the burnt woods." "My God, that is far. You couldn't have come all that way only this morning." It was true. Tanner Fork was in the exact opposite direction Jesper had traveled, and while that response would seem perfectly reasonable in a location closer to Blackbridge Canyon, he could see why it might seem less believable here. "Sir, I have traveled much further, for much less profit. I dare say that there is no distance yet made by a man that would not be worth undertaking for a prize such as these. Surely you have tasted them for yourself?" Jesper felt happier with his response, as it seemed to amplify the man's smile. "In my youth, often, but perhaps I took it for granted because I never had to travel very far. And even then, my father would always drive us here in our carriage. I'm ashamed I never had to walk such a stretch to earn an equal reward." It was Jesper's time to smile. "Then let my efforts reward us both today." He raised the basket even higher. "A taste in memory of your youth, sir." The driver chuckled and removed one glove, bending over the seat to reach down to the basket. And at that moment his finger touched the first berry. The dagger in turn met his throat, cutting through a superficial layer of skin and drawing blood. Jesper caught the man's startled gaze, and for the taste, Jesper caught the man's startled gaze. "And for that taste, I will have your purse, sir, in memory of my youth." The driver's arm had gone stiff, his chin raised and trembling, more frightened than he had ever been before. Whether unable or incapable of speaking, he did not respond to the boy. Perhaps he did not think his jaw could afford to be engaged at this particular time. Jesper let the basket drop, freeing his other hand to probe the man's pockets. "Do not mistake me, sir. I will not kill you if you give me no cause. Though, I will admit, the thought of taking your carriage and leaving you the indignity of walking appeals to me." Unable to find a purse in the man's coat, Jesper pivoted to search the seat under him. "Why have you no purse upon your person?" The driver slowly raised his hand cautiously, pointing towards the carriage door behind him. Jesper lowered the knife's edge a small degree to allow the man to speak, which he did in turn softly. "There's a lockbox in the carriage." "Well, Come down then, and grant me the courtesy of sparing your life and binding your hands. A concession, I assure you, my tender heart, for it would be much easier to slit your throat. The man started to comply, slowly, lowering himself from the driver's seat of the carriage. Once down, Jesper guided him away from the carriage to a nearby tree, where he instructed him to get on his knees and put his hands behind his back. Excusing his inexperience, the man indulged Jesper while he figured out how to adequately bind him. The smile and kindness Jesper had seen on this man's face now, nothing more than a distant memory. In their place, cold, dark eyes displaying no emotion. I wonder, should I grant you the same clemency you are showing me? I'm not sure who this is. Okay, no, this is the old man. I wonder, should I grant you the same clemency you are showing me? Jesper stopped, surprised by the man's question, but ignored it, secured the final bindings, and then hastily turned to the carriage. With one hand on the door's handle, he turned back to the man. If there is no lockbox, then there will be no clemency. I've never seen that word before, I'll be honest. Inside the carriage, there was a surprisingly dusty and unswept. Inside the carriage was surprisingly dusty and unswept, a stark contrast to the elegant and polished golden facade of the exterior. It had apparently been many years since a passenger had enjoyed the passage in this vehicle. This all but confirmed what Jesper had suspected. The driver of this carriage was not a liveried servant in the liveried? The driver of this carriage was not a liveried servant in the employment of some greater master. Any curiosity that this observation might have further produced was quickly abandoned upon seeing what was rested under the carriage's back seat, a large wooden lockbox. Despite its hefty appearance, the box was surprisingly easy to handle. With a few minutes, Jesper had dislodged it from its hold and carried it into the sunlight, inspecting the box carefully. 2 observations were made. Totemic symbols found carved on all 4 sides of the box hinted that the box was very old and likely not created by Orindian hands. It reminded him of artifacts from the old world that was presumably crafted in one of the ancient realms. Secondly, the box was secured by a rusted yet robust padlock and would not open easily without a key. Jesper looked over to see the driver quietly observing from his indentured position. Do you perhaps have a key you can provide me to open this box? Without emotion, the driver replied, There is no key to that box. Jesper stood up. Easy enough, then. Here's a picture of the box here. Can't particularly make anything out. Note yet. He headed over to a nearby rock of sizable dimensions and lifted the stone up, carrying it back to the box. If there was ever a time when that lock had been resistant to brute force, it wasn't recent. With one hit, the stone had completely shattered the rusted lock. He bent back down and opened the lid. Inside was an effigy, a crude figure chiseled from stone. Without too much deliberation, Jesper bent down and picked it up, somewhat surprised at how heavy it seemed, given how light the box had felt. Having expected to find something more akin to gold or gems, he looked questioningly to the man, hoping to find an explanation. The driver's smile had once again returned. You are cursed, boy, for deadly is the stone. You have opened that which should have never been opened, and you are cursed. Jesper carried the effigy over to the man and shoved it in front of his face. What is this? What is it? That's one. Feeling his disappointment rising to anger now, That's one. Feeling his disappointment rising to anger now, Jesper tightened his grip on the effigy. When what? Are you mumbling Agentor? And in God's name, why have you no purse upon your person? The man did not seem intimidated. One pace, He paused for effect. 12 more, and you will be dead. He only had a second to flinch before the effigy struck him in the head and put an end to his cryptic ramblings. If there was ever a time when the old man had been resistant to brute force, it was recent. Gisper looked down at the sculpted stone figure, now splattered red. Was it cursed? Was he cursed? He had, of course, heard stories of curses and had never doubted their validity in the past, but now that he was standing face to face with the possibility of being cursed, his mind pleaded with him to be skeptical. And if he was cursed, what difference would that knowledge make? A dozen more paces would not be enough to find another living soul, to say nothing of the chances of procuring a remedy. If he did not move from where he was now, he could live maybe another 3 or 4 days, maybe more given the abundance of nearby berries. A plan, if we ignore its obvious faults, might provide additional opportunities for help to come along. But what good would that do? To be discovered here? Beside a body, stolen goods in hand, bloated from berries and raving about a curse that could very well not be real? No, it would most certainly be better to face one's fate now, take a dozen paces, and see if life goes on. But Jesper found his legs unable to make that first step. His mind was unable to convince his limb to waste away 1/12 of his life in a single motion. Feeling the desperation sink in, he hopelessly looked about him for a solution. And if by some stroke of luck the gods had heard his plea, a miracle materialized before him, as if he found himself suddenly at the end of a fairy tale. I will say it's interesting that the book is mentioning like 12 steps and then you're dead and such, when steps are a very relevant part of the game. You go to sleep instantly after you run out of steps. That's probably intentional. I bet there's some sort of hidden message in this book as well that I need to be able to find, but haven't seen anything that would provide such a clue yet. 2 white horses and a carriage of golden trim were beside him, the answer to his immediate prayers. He laughed at his fortune and calculated the short number of paces back to the road. 4, perhaps only 3 if you jumped. He made a quick survey to see if there was anything he wished to grab before taking the plunge. He thought about removing the driver's fancy coat that appeared to be of some value, but the additional risk of undertaking such a task too great to chance. And so, after a profound breath, he took his second, third, and fourth steps, though they were quite large. Seated now behind the horse, he reached for the reins and suddenly realized that he was still gripping the effigy. If the curse was real, then it would most certainly be better left here. If, on the other hand, the story was fictitious, there might be some appraisal that could be made of the figure. It was, after all, found within a lockbox whose typical function oft secures objects of value. Having witnessed firsthand the horrors of destitution, Jesper found his mind equally reluctant to allow his hand to let go. If it is cursed, I die. If not today, then tomorrow. And if I die, what care have I? With that statement said out loud, to the horses seemingly, Jesper took up the reins with confidence. Part 2. Below the Black Bridge. Oh my gosh. Okay. There aren't a bunch more parts. Good. Miller awoke to some light nudging from a familiar foot. Miller awoke to some light nudging from a familiar foot. Only one person would have the cheek to awaken her in such ill-mannered fashion. Shaking the sleep from her eyes, she glared up at him in the darkness, but not enough to say a word. He nudged her again, teasingly, then stepped back into the dim. After taking a moment for her eyes to adjust to the darkness of the cave, Miller remembered she was on the third watch day. Quietly collecting her things and wits, Miller returned as she left, waving to her young friend, who was more than likely already asleep. She crept through the cavern's main passage, carefully not to awake the sleeping bandits around her. Like a hero in a book, she often mused. Quietly, she grabbed a bow from the haphazardly formed pile of weapons, shaking the accompanying quiver in the darkness to assess how many arrows she had. She then walked towards the sun-drenched mouth of the cavern, ready to start her shift. Above her, in one of the few trees around the canyon, Miller could see that Ravia was already posted. She waved, and Ravia waved back. Calling out to each other was strictly forbidden. Anything louder than a gesture in the canyon was forbidden. When Miller reached the tree, Ravia lowered a braided rope and pointed it to the ground behind her. Miller turned, following the figure, and saw a pail of water resting beside a nearby log. She turned back to Ravia and nodded, secured the pail to the rope. The pail went up first, and in turn, Miller followed. Ravia reached across to grab the water. Miller leaned back to give her the space. There was not much from the room. There was not much room for maneuvering, and this tree posed a necessary concession for the concealment of the out. A necessary concession for the concealment the outpost demanded. Ravia tilted the pail up to her mouth, dramatically illustrating how thirsty she had been. Miller laughed silently as the water poured out, splashing into Ravia's face. It was a bit too daring and noisy of a joke, and had the others been around, they would have certainly been scolded for the unwarranted sounds. But Miller appreciated the efforts Ravia took to verbalize the silence of the morning. They had been on third watch together for over a month, and during this speechless time, their friendship had grown into something special. Affection was unsurprisingly scarce among the unholy hounds. She had felt camaraderie. She had felt camaraderie before, of course, but intimacy never. From their elevated vantage, the girls could see both the concealed entrance of the cavern, as well as a clear view of the bridge that spanned across the canyon. Blackbridge was the link between the Gentry lands and the northern mountains, the overpass that connected Orris and Reddington. Ooh, interesting. To the city-faring travelers of the realm, the bridge was an unavoidable crossing. In the day, the task was to ensure that travelers passed by without stopping. At night, the task was to ensure that they do. Like most of her band, Miller preferred the nights. The biting glare of the sun might be tolerable to farmhands and bricklayers, but to a cavern-housed bandit, it was the source of constant annoyance. In the day, there was no shroud to conceal her expression, nor to hide her thoughts. She felt exposed. Ravia touched her elbow and pointed up. Miller, striving to suppress her budding smile, suddenly shook her hand in response. There were many signs that the unholy hounds used in lieu of words, but the two of them had developed an extended vocabulary, gestures quietly forged in the shared solitude of the month among the branches. She watched as Ravia shifted, pacing her palms flat on the floorboards beneath them. Miller knew what she was trying to say, but shook her head a second time. It was often more fun to pretend not to understand. Ravia rolled her eyes and turned away, looking back to the canyon. Squinting through the leaves, the two girls had held still, watching and listening. It was not long until Miller, too, heard the sounds of approach. It was not long until Miller, too, heard the sounds of reproach. Ravia held up two bent fingers, and a few moments later, two men emerged from the bridge's southern end. They were dressed in familiar uniform, long gray coats with black facings, the white waistcoats, and black tricorn hats. They belonged to the local patrol, the Blackguard. Although not an everyday occurrence, their presence at Blackbridge wasn't an unusual sight. It typically indicated an important traveler's impending passage across the bridge. Information that the girls would promptly relay to their leader as soon as the coast was clear. But this report, while exciting, was rarely acted upon. In Miller's 5 years in the Unholy Hounds, she had never once seen a carriage taken in open daylight when the Blackguard was nearby. The men had nearly reached the bridge's north end when Miller heard the horses faintly. The bridge was nearly at. The men had nearly reached the bridge's north end when Miller heard the horses, faintly at first, but growing louder with each passing moment. Ravia's eyes met Miller's, the same concerned. Ravia's eyes met Miller's, the same concerned mirror in each other's expression. This did not sound like the typical carriage. Cautiously approaching the bridge to cross, instead of the familiar crunch of the high road's gravel, they heard the harsh clattering of hoofbeats against stone. Both girls quietly redirected their attention downwards, looking through the foliage. The sounds were not coming from the high road, but from the canyon itself. The horses were coming from below the bridge. In an instant, Miller's hand knocked an arrow and drew her bow. Go. Ravi was gone before the whisper had even left Miller's mouth. The young scout was already sliding down the bank below, racing towards the cave. There was no road that ran below the canyon. There was no reason for numerous horses to be approaching their cave. There was only one reasonable conclusion, and both the girls had reached it instantly. The base had been compromised. This was a blackguard attack. The moment the horses came to view, Miller let loose her first arrow. She was surprised to see a carriage. She had expected cavalry. But before she even finished processing that thought, her second arrow was in the air. Without a trail, it would be unthinkable for a carriage to traverse such rough terrain, yet she watched as the wheels jolted over the rocky riverbed. A third arrow was now in flight, and there would be no need for a fourth. The driver slumped over just moments before the vehicle dipped into a small ditch, slamming into the embankment. The force of this sudden halt immediately shattered the front two wheels and catapulted the driver from his seat. Utterly confused, Miller quickly glanced over her shoulder to see if any horses were also approaching from the rear. Down the canyon, the entire horde of the unholy hounds came spilling forth from the earth as if hell itself had suddenly sprung open. The group seemed even more bewildered than Miller, half asleep and tripping over one another in a desperate attempt to engage an unseen enemy in combats. Miller could see Ravia among their number, the only one looking up at her. Her expression was chilling. There would be no need for a silent gesture to convey what they had both now realized. They had made a mistake. The gang's chieftain, Joffrey Heartslasher, led the others, cautiously approaching the crashed carriage like a suspicious fox would near a baited trap. There were no words exchanged as the group crept forward in customary silence. A dozen or more paces in front of the wreckage lay the far-flung driver, an arrow protruding from his broken body, and beside him, a blood-stained effigy carved from stone. Guess here's a closer look at the effigy, huh? Again, it's hard to make out what it is. Miller was inconsolable. Jesper has always been her favorite. He had always shadowed her in the nights, clinging to the hems of her every move, the way a child tails behind an older sibling. Tender-hearted, she had always called him, though deep down she had known that wasn't quite true. His appearance of gentleness concealed a raw, resilient durability that emerged in the most perilous situations. He had been a flower among the nettles of this cave, but he still had thorns, honed by a grim past and 100 hands of misfortune. They buried him in the darkness. In the back of one of the larger cavern rooms, he was interred with a berry basket. And a silk handkerchief that had he had treasured. The mysterious effigy they had found beside him served as a distinguished gravestone, a marker that stood out as somewhat special among the rows of similar swords marking neighboring plots. No one spoke, not even a whisper. There was nothing to say. Miller awoke the next day to a thunderous shaking and rattling of the earth. a far cry from the playful nudging of the previous day. She strained to adjust her eyes, but the choking sting of stirred up dust caused her to flinch. Panic was in the air. The sounds of scurried footsteps and clattering feet filled the space around her. But even in alarm, the silence was louder. What was it that sounded so strange? Miller closed her eyes tight and used her feet to guide her along the passage. The whispers around her were getting louder, and intense voices could be heard ahead. Louder speech than she had ever heard spoken in the canyon. A growing dread grew as Miller approached the mouth of the cave, her eyes now open, wide despite the dust. Shouldn't it be day? Miller felt a hand in the darkness, pulling at her. It was Revia. The two embraced, and Miller did not need to see her to understand. Revia placed two bent fingers against Miller's cheek, and with that touch against her face, Miller felt the same sinking feeling from the previous day. Two bent fingers confirmed what Miller had suspected. The girls had forgotten to relay one critical piece of information to the others. An hour or so later, screams began, blood-curdling cries of hopeless desperation. Captain Fodrick, Lee of the Blackguard, looked down from the ridge of the canyon to the collapsed entrance of the cave. Ah, he grinned. Now they speak. Now they speak. Oh, I guess he's talking about the screams. What a story. That was interesting. Well, I said I wasn't going to do much talking, but I suppose that isn't the case. My poor throat. Don't particularly know exactly what that story was trying to get at. But I'm sure we'll find a reason for it at some point. Ooh, okay. Honestly, maybe redo this. And choosing the cloister here seems kind of wasteful. We want to go left here if possible. Ooh, unfortunate. Oh, it is. Let's do some pool games. Just be, maybe this is 1/3. So 1/3 times 3 would be 1. No. Is it wanting 3? Oh wait, no, sorry, 1/3 times 9 would be 3. Aha. Ooh, boy. So this would be 1 squared plus 1 squared would be 2 squared, so that would be 4. And then plus 1 would be 5, plus 1 would be 5, squared is 25, divided by 1/3 of 15, which would be 5, so it's looking for 5 here. Oh no, I messed up. So I think it is 25 minus 5, not divided by 5. That's what it was. So 10. Nope. No, it would be 20. Oops. Oh boy. 1/3 of 10, so 3.3 repeating. Oh boy. Times 20 squared. So that would be 66.66666. Squared? Does this seem right? So assuming that is right, I don't know 66 squared off the top of my head. Oh, let me bust out the calculator. Okay, so 4,000. I don't think that's right. What am I doing wrong here? Wait, no. I was multiplying. I don't know what I was multiplying by 20. And I should have been multiplying by 3. So it's a third of 10 times 3, so just 10 squared, 100. Minus 1 would be 99 divided by 11 would be 9. I don't know what I was thinking there. Spending so long reading that book messed up my brain. Alright. So I want to get to the top side of this chamber of mirrors if possible. If not, that's alright, but it would be nice. Take the den, and then we want to go left from the den. Aha. And left we can go. Question is, do we want to take a hallway or the laboratory? Let's take the laboratory. Let's do that. You can now press another button. And we can go up. Oh, you can just add more stuff. I don't really want to add another pantry to the drafting pool, to be honest. It isn't the best room in the world. Another wine cellar. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. It is cool how you get permanent floor plans in this room. To be honest, I think getting a second observatory was like one of the best options. Seems very good. Did I already press this one? No. To the right. Ooh, this is actually better. I think I want to go back to the start and explore the left side before we do anything else. Trophy room. Or observatory. I think I'll go observatory. Another observatory, sure. So here's the fixed stores, right? So if I go back to my notes here, actually, I don't think I had it in my notes. I had it in my screenshots. Let's have a look at those real quick. So for the fixed stars in particular, it was saying page Z, word X. So if I take it as just X being 1, Y being 2, Z being 3, and ABC being 4, 5, 6, right? Then page Z word X would be page 3. So 1, 2, 3, word X, so word 1, so preface. If instead I go from the back, then it would be 1, 2, 3. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I'm going C, B, A, Z. Right? C, B, A, Z. Word X would be C, B, A, Z. There would be no word X. So why would it say assume page count starts at the title page? Maybe you go forward for the title page and then backward for the word? If that were the case, then it would be X, Y, Z, and then backwards to X. So C, B, A, Z, Y, X, and, which doesn't seem like that's what it should be. So I'm honestly not sure. I think that before I figure out like the full extent of this a new clue mystery, I need to get some more information. Choose chapel here. Another observatory. Sure. Don't really want to take this up across. Another dark puzzle. Ooh, and a broken lever. Oh boy, new symbol. Waves. Let's figure out what this means, huh? So whatever we're doing, we're adding 6 and then subtracting a third of 1? Maybe it's supposed to be like, you take the inverse of that number, so instead of 1/3, it's 3/1, so I'm just going to choose 3. No. Ooh, so interesting. Seems like it didn't do anything. Why would that be the case? So 20 plus 18 would be 38. Divided by 10 But with this weird symbol. Maybe you round? Maybe this is rounding? So this would be 38 divided by 10, which would be 3.8. So round to 4. Yes. 5 rounded by itself is just 5. Nope. Okay. So this is like 6 minus a third, round to 6. And again, this would be 4. But just this. Oh, and there are 2 waves now. So maybe with 2 waves on each side, you need to like round to the nearest tenths place. Okay, that's correct. So this should also be the same. Yes. In 3. Okay. So this would be 10 times 6, 60, rounded to 100, divided by 20 would be 5. Okay. 10 times 14 would be 140, rounded to 100, divided by 10 would be 10. Interesting. So I want to go left here if possible. It is possible. Gotta turn on the water. I don't really want to take the Great Hall now. But I mean, I guess it isn't bad to have Great Halls, because eventually I'll hopefully get the foyer. I think I'll just draft this way and try to go left. Oh wait, I can use my lockpick. That's right. So if this one is like this, right? Is there a way to tell? I don't think so. I'll use a key here though. Nice. I hate the garage here. More keys. Oof, that's not good though. Free gem. I only have one. No, I have 2 ways to go, but in reality, it's more like 1 way to go. So in a new clue, it also showed like gates spelled with an A versus with an I. Showed a picture of horses. So I wonder what happens if I only count the pictures of horses. That would be 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 0. So let's try that. They aren't small gates, but they are gates. Nope. What about 0, 1, 2, 3? Nope. Thought it was too good to be true. I'll go for the commissary here. Why are the running shoes so expensive? It's 50% off. Are they normally 18 gold? Huh. Well, I have the money, so might as well grab them. Oh, it only takes it off after you buy it. I see. Boiler room. Sure. Do I want to go for the archives? Not really. I think it is a dead end, but I think I'm going to... no, I'll go for the archives. It'll make future drafting a little bit more annoying, but that's alright. Still curious about that little picture that says delete this pointing to the archives. I bet I'll need to get into the Brackbridge Grotto terminal in order to find out what that was about. This could be the furnace, which wouldn't be good, but I'm willing to give it a shot. Oh, it's another archives. Does this mean 2 of my floor plans will be archived? Keycard. That's handy. Double archives. Are these the same in each archive room? I'm assuming so. Nope, still only one archived room. I mean, that's just so obviously shining on the ladder. I tried clicking around the ladder though, and nothing happened. The foyer. Big. Oh, I've never drafted the foyer next to a wall yet before. Except for the back wall. So I guess the back wall can't have windows, which is interesting. but this room does. There's the little garage path out there. Casino. I think I'll go for the archive floor plan here. Wine cellar, not bad. Major Nicholas Key 4. Another thing that I found when reading, looking at the VOD of me reading through New Clue, is the whole thing that, like, it was a blue note saying the suspect is Major, a handwritten red note saying the suspect is minor, and then a typed red note saying this suspect is like a minor, like somebody who works in the mine. And it said, I believe the suspect is, maybe I have it written down. Let me check my notes here. The suspect is A. Key, which I found interesting that this was Major Nicholas Key 4. But in the office, there's also the herrings of the Major, so maybe this could mean nothing at all. I've tried pressing all this guy's buttons, trying to make him talk. Nothing happens when you press on the A. Very interesting, very interesting. Furnace or the dark room? I guess I'd take the dark room. Here's the red prince. So if we go back and look at our screenshot here, for the red prince it said page A, word X. So assuming we just go X, Y, Z, A, word X would be the first one, which would be the again. If we say like the word is from the back forwards, it would be C, B, A, X, Z, Y, X, so true. Which is interesting because if you do it that way, this is like a an italicized word. True. I can write that down just to keep it in mind. Not sure if that's the way it's wanting us to do it though. If we assume that we need to go all the way back, then it would be... I'm not sure. It's hard to say with this one. I bet that's the way they want us to do it, though. Go forwards when counting pages, go backwards when counting words. That's the only thing that makes sense. Otherwise, assuming we start here, right? Or maybe assuming we start here, it would be CBA, or I guess CBA. And word X would be CBAZYX in. Well, good to know. draft this room from the passageway so we can actually see what it looks like when we enter. Another archived room with 2 gems. Let's go ahead and take that. Ooh, the office. Not ideal, but not terrible. Still unsure. I don't mind drafting the weight room here. Another weight room? Sure. Might as well. Locksmith courtyard. Let's do the courtyard. So I guess we might as well do this delivered, even though it's inaccessible. Actually, the Hall of Mirrors probably really helps. Well, I'm not sure if it would help or hurts in getting the classroom reaching grade 8. I don't need gems anymore, that's for sure. Actually, if I could draft a freezer, that would be really good. Want to redraw. Go to the right. Uh-oh. Well, I guess this is my only choice. Oh, nice. How many dark boards do I have left to do? Four more. I think that's all we can do for today. Let's call it here. And move on to the next day. That was a long one just because of all the reading in the library at the very beginning. Next day. Day 53. Oh, we no longer have the spray with us. Oh well. Package has been delivered. I should have waited and went outside first. Oh well. This is a lot of stuff. Very nice. schoolyard or tomb. Schoolhouse, I should say. And I guess I've already messed up my chances of getting into room 8, but oh well. The tomb. Let's go first thing and get the key. Lady Epson's diary key. These candles aren't lit anymore. Interesting. So we also know for sure that the angel with the hoe has it pointing downwards. We know that this is pointed upwards. Don't know about this. Don't know about this. Don't know about this. Well, we can come back to this. I think I'll explore the right side a little bit to get some rooms out of the way, so that I have a higher chance of getting her ladyship's chambers when I'm on the left side, going downwards. Brass compass. Do we want to take a brass compass? I could actually. I will take it because I'm going to craft it immediately. Make a dowsing rod. Sure. Oh no, are there no items? It's unfortunate. Take a look at YouTube chat. Very good. No messages. That's what we like to see. Kind of want more rooms more than anything else. The hallway's pretty good here. But dining room might have items. Coupon book. Car keys. All right. Need to go left here. Oh, huh. I'm hearing the sink in the other room. Interesting. magnifying glass. Very nice. Come on, give me Diamondus Major. Oh no, it's the inkwell. That's what it is. Trophy room. That's looking pretty nice. Well, ooh, I think I will go for the trophy room just because I kind of need the gems. A security door. Whoa. Yeah, let's use some keys here and try to go up across. Probably won't be drafting the library here. Well, actually, I guess I will be. Apple. Oh boy, what do we need to get? We haven't read these two drafting strategies yet. We haven't read, wait, volume 5, volume 4. Oh, sorry, that's volume 3. We also haven't read Realm and Maroon. We've read like the torn up copy down in the basement, but not the actual copy. Want to go to the left? Yeah, sure. I'll wait to buy this stuff. I'm going to redraw in hopes of getting a, like, ooh, a gallery is interesting. Yeah, let's get a gallery. It's been a long time since I've looked at this puzzle here. So to be completely honest, the people that I was trying to do this puzzle with last time I looked at it, like, did some digging of their own and found the answer. And they didn't tell me what it was. They said it was kind of, all they said is it didn't really follow the trend of think, ponder, realize. And they said it was some sort of pun. It was some sort of like strange word, an uncommon word. I think I will spend some more time looking at this later, but for now, I'm going to move on. I'll definitely take a drawing room here. Choose the swing hall and then try again. Ladyship's chamber. Notice that this is like the Araja Airy symbol on the book. Unlocked. Ladyship's sleep diary. 11779. My dear diary, after countless sleepless nights and failed home remedies, my physician has waged me to document my sleeping routines in the various bedrooms of our estate. It is his hope that by tracking the caliber and length of my sleep in each room, together we may come to a deeper understanding of my condition, and perhaps with luck find a more comfortable environment in which I might finally find some amount of rest. Clara. 1 1879. My dear diary, to begin, I thought it best to start with my own room, despite already knowing how unsuitable it has been for my sleep of late. Perhaps it is all the old memories that linger here, as it is impossible not to think of home among so many mementos of my youth. Nonetheless, I find comfort in gazing at the stars before dozing off, and it pains me to consider that if this trial is successful, it may be one of the final occasions that I sleep here. Clara. So it does mention gazing up at the stars. Let me take a look upward. Because it has this skylight, I should say. So I bet this little route here are the stars. That's the only thing that I can think of. Free gem. Don't mind if I do. My room. Sleep duration 2.5 hours. Quality peaceful despite brevity. Observable effects. I awoke the following morning with 10 less steps, but also observed an additional star in the sky. Oh, so is this if you end the night in a bedroom? This happens? Interesting. So 1/21/79. Dearest diary, last night I I retired to the guest room, as I have yet to gain the courage to ask anyone to surrender their room to me, even for a night. This bedroom is a cozy space normally reserved for guests staying the weekend. However, I found despite having a choice between two beds that neither proved to be very comfortable. I must speak with Herbert about this, as our guests deserve at the very least as much comfort in their stay as we have. Oh my goodness! The best viewers are at that website. No way! Guest bedroom. Sleep duration 4 hours. Quality very fragmented. Observable effects nothing special. 1/22/79. My dear diary, it was strange to sleep in the childhood room of my late husband. The room was just as I had imagined it from the stories he told me growing. The room was just as I had imagined it from the stories he had told me of growing up with an older brother. Herbert informed me that the room has remained untouched, almost identical to when they both occupied it. To avoid any accidents, I slept in the bottom bunk, as climbing the ladders is not as easy as it used to be. Despite my exhaustion, my thoughts of Simon kept me up through most of the night. Clara. Sleep duration twice the usual. Quality two times as result. 2 times as restless. Sorry. Observable effects. The next morning, I went to the family tomb to resist. The next morning, I went to the family tomb to visit his grave and was surprised to find a flower already laid. Interesting. So if you end the night in the bunk room and then draft the tomb, there should be something special that happens. 12479. I could not bring myself to ask Hartley directly if I could borrow his room for my sleep study. The mere thought of it was mortifying. Instead, I decided to roll the die, as he often puts it, and wait for his night off to sneak into his room and to nap. The experience of sleeping in a servant's room was thrilling, but the fear of getting caught was overwhelming. Every little noise startled me, and I couldn't manage to sleep for more than a few moments, fearing Hartley would return at any time. Clara. Servants' quarters. Sleep duration, perhaps 1 hour. Quality, terrible. Effect. About half the steps the following day. I also discovered a stray die had found its way into my pocket, which was hardly shocking given Hartley's history. Hmm. 12579. My dear diary. I have to confess that I was initially hesitant to spend the night in the Baron's room. It's it's extravagantly showy, with every surface adorned with gold and every piece of furniture so large it seems almost comical. But as I lay down in the enormous bed, I was surprised to find that I felt entirely at ease. Ern, uh, Aaron, the Even the absurdly oversized pillows were somehow comfortable, propping me up just right so that I didn't feel any strain on my neck or back. I slept more soundly than I have in weeks, and I woke up feeling genuinely rested for the first time in what feels like forever. Clara. Master bedroom. Sleep duration 8 whole hours. Quality the best in many months. Observable effects. I woke feeling very refreshed, with more energy and more steps than normal. 12879. As it would have it, just as I had begun to make progress in my quest of slumber, a most joyous event has interrupted my progress. My beloved daughter has given birth to a son, and has requested my presence in town to assist her during this exciting but demanding time. For now, I shall take my leave of the bedrooms of Mount Holly, but I am certain, dear diary, that one day I shall return. Lady Clara Epson, grandmother. Hmm? Hmm. Huh. That's one thing I didn't do with the blessing that I got. I didn't try putting the antechamber in um the outhouse. I guess I should try that next time I get that blessing. Hopefully it won't be too long before I get it. Very interesting. Because that's what it looks like. Very interesting. All right. So it seems like it's good to end the day in the master bedroom or the bunk room. Because I'm curious about this. Servant's quarter will like have my footsteps but give me a die. Interesting. Hmm. Clock tower it is. Be interesting to get the silver stopwatch here. A large battery pack. How close is it to 130? Not very. Still so much to uncover. Do I want to continue forward or explore the left side? Let's go back and explore the left side before I get too far. Although I probably should reach rank 8 in case I draft. No, I've already drafted the deck. So yeah, let's go ahead and use this here. The garage. I think I'll go for the veranda for now. Actually, you know what? I'll redraw and try to get a better room. That's no better room. Foyer, huh? Sure. This map. I don't have a shovel. Oh no, I don't think I'm able to get a shovel either because I have the dowsing rod. Oh well, that's alright. I have forgotten exactly what it is that all the letters were because I misplaced the piece of paper that I made. So I'm actually going to make a new piece of paper here with all of these and then probably think on it later. I spent just a little bit of time looking at this picture here. Will I be able to get it? Probably not. Hmm. Oh my gosh, I keep on skipping over E. Hmm. This one really does stump me. I think I've tried Definely before. I honestly don't know. Is it humility? Have I tried that? Nope. Humanity? Nope. Lost. There's a rug. Wonder if it includes rug in it. It would need to be the same 3 letters that Finn would be too. Well, this might be another one. Now that I have a list of the letters again, I'll just sit there and think. Come back to. I won't get it tonight. It is what it is. I think I'll get to eat this. I haven't been to the dormitory before. Oh, but the armory might have the axe in it. I'll look at the armory. No axe. But a shield. I do have the sledgehammer, so don't need to spend money on the mace. Although, it would give me a star, which wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Can win another pool game. Soul Shaker. So rounding to the ones place, 11 divided by 5 would be 2 rounded. 7 rounded to the tens would be 10. 10 times 11 rounded would be 100. Divided by 20 would be 5. A third of 10 rounded would be 3. Plus 2 plus 2 and 2.3 rounded would be 5. Very nice. The silver key wants to go to the left here if possible. Chapel. I did get a bonus for entering the Major. And I think that I get trunks in the entrance hall too, right? No, that was on a different day. Oops. This room wasn't in the diary. That's interesting. I wonder what happens when you fall asleep in this room. Guess we'll need to find out. I also don't know what happens if you fall asleep in the dormitory. Be the first edition of drafting strategies in here. Be exciting. But before we get into that, what else do we have? A clock, chessboard, pawn, chair. Costa Rica University. And this is a different country here. Some dice. Oh, this is volume 2 of Drafting Strategy. Contents, my type of room, the craft of the draft, shifting gears, no time like the future, perplexing plans, spreading your wings, word from the editor. My type of room, categorization of floor plan subtypes. As architects, we know that that designing a building as architects, we know that designing a building is a complex and multifaceted process. From the layout to the details, every decision we make can have a significant impact on the final result. Perhaps that's why we're always looking for ways to improve our craft and refine our ideas. In this edition of Drafting Strategy, we're excited to introduce a useful concept that can take your designs to the next level: room subtypes. While we've previously explored the use of colored floor plans to categorize the basic kinds of rooms, in this issue, we will be examining architectural symbols that can be used to further classify and differentiate the types of rooms in your house. These symbols provide the draftsman with a visual way to indicate the purpose and function of a room, whether it's a design workspace, a utility control room, or a conundrum, or a conundrum. These subtype symbols can communicate the intended use of a room at a quick glance. By including these symbols on their floor plans, architects can make it easier for contractors and builders to understand their vision and bring it to life. But the benefits of floor plan categorization go beyond just clarity. By understanding and identifying subtypes, architects can craft strategies that surpass the surface level simplistic approaches commonly used by inexperienced drafters. The craft of the draft. Drafting rooms are floor plans that affect the draft pool or the drafting process. As such, they are spaces that are often designed for activities related to academic pursuits and research. Some of their common features include floor plan redrawing, draft pool manipulation, and rarity adjustments. As students of the art of drafting, aspiring architects can greatly benefit from the knowledge, experience, and learning opportunities that these rooms have to offer. In a class of its own, academia isn't only found in the mountains of Coricia. Classroom is a great example of the scholastic strategies that this room type has to offer. Not only does it provide synergy for other drafting rooms, but it's also a valuable source of information and knowledge. Did you know the classrooms you'll find will fall under one of the 8 different grades, ranging from first grade to the accumulation of your academic journey, grade 8? However, there are rumors that an additional annex classroom at Mount Holly Elementary used solely for exams and student testing. Let me read that again. However, there are rumors of an additional annex classroom at the Mount Holly Elementary used solely for exams and student testing, but finding it has been near impossible as it requires drafting more than 8 classrooms. That's interesting. So we need to draft 9 classrooms to ace the exam. Dang. Which is possible since I added Classroom to the draft pool itself, but it'll still be hard. Shifting Gears, Architectural Digest's Guide to Mechanical Rooms. Far from the pristine white pages of academia, the mechanical world is a rugged industrial space marked by the symbol of the gear and stained with the grime of heavy machinery. These floor plans prioritize function over aesthetics, and the design of each mechanical room reflects this focus on efficiency. These rooms serve as the command center for estate operations, housing the control systems that keep everything running smoothly. Ducts, ducts, ducts. Three-way rooms split ducts 3 ways. Boiler room is known as a power source because it provides steam power to various rooms in the house. Steam is conveyed from room to room via ducts that run across the ceiling, and power can be transported across great distances as long as you continue to string together rooms that contain power ducts. So when you're in a room, look up. There might be a duct. There might be a duck. Did you know drafting from a door that is steam powered will increase the likelihood of drawing rooms with ducts? I actually kind of had that suspicion, but it makes sense. No time like the future. Some rooms offer long-term benefits rather than immediate resources. These floor plans, known as tomorrow rooms, are considered an investment for the future, and they offer the forward-thinking architect a number of strategies that will pay dividends down the road. Strategic planning is critical to drafting success, and knowing when to forsake the current day's progress to set yourself up for a prosperous future is a critical decision that each architect will encounter. Time freeze. Nothing better exemplifies setting yourself up for tomorrow at the expense of today than freezer. But drafters who may not want to totally abandon their current day's progress will be pleased to know that there are a few clever ways to manipulate frozen assets. Entering furnace or sauna after drafting a freezer will thaw any frozen gems or gold you are carrying, and you will once again be able to use them. However, if you still wish your accounts to carry over to the next day, you will have to refreeze your assets again by re-entering freezer. Warning: if furnace is drafted within a few ranks of freezer, then the temperature will start rising and everything will melt, including your assets. If the temperature gets too high, refreezing will no longer be possible. Perplexing plans. Any architect who loves challenge inevitably ends up drafting a few puzzle rooms in their house. These floor plans, marked only with a single enigmatic jigsaw piece, lack accompanying text and explanations, as if to suggest that even understanding the room's function is part of the puzzle. Some puzzle rooms, like parlor and billiard room, become increasingly difficult as you solve them, evolving over time as you progress. Spreading your wings. The final type of room we will cover in this issue is the spread room. These floor plans enable the architect to spread out items among many rooms. When items are spread, they are only placed in currently active rooms in the house. The number of items that are spread is determined by the number of rooms on your estate. Waiting until your house is bigger will provide larger spreads. Strategies that employ spread rooms are often centered around travel and backtracking. Word from the editor. I wanted to use this segment to thank all our readers for the wonderful mail and feedback we received after we sent out our very first issue of Drafting Strategy. It's incredibly rewarding to create something that is appreciated. It's even more rewarding to know that somewhere out there, a young architect is reading our magazine and getting inspired to build something of his own that may one day, in turn, inspire others. When I was a child, I vividly remember the experience of reading the memoirs of the court's grand architect, Lorenza T. Rayland. To say it challenged me is an understatement. It had a profound effect on the way I view the world and the spaces within it. We each draft our own dreams as a child faint sketches on blurry blueprints, illegible to all, especially ourselves. And our purpose? Why it is to find hidden in the floor plans. Why it is found hidden in the floor plans of our youth. Interesting. Interesting. What else can we do here? Well, nothing but go up and hope. Maybe I'll take some time to mess with the angels or something. I might as well spend the gold. Yum. I do have a key. Do I have a key card? No, I think that was the previous game. So I can't access this room, I don't think. Unfortunate. So I really need help. I can buy keys at the commissary, though. In fact, I might do that. Do I buy another? I think I do buy another. Lost. Go for a parlor. The black box is true and it contains the gems. The blue box is empty and it is false. The black box is false, the above statement is false. Interesting. So if this is telling the truth, then this is lying. Oh. But it's saying that the blue box is empty. Oh, the blue box is empty if it is false. But if it's true, but if the blue box is true, this box is empty. If it's false, they're both empty and the white box has the gems. If this is true. Black box is false, the above statement is false. This is also saying the black box is true, contains gems. The blue box is empty if it is false. Pretty sure that one of these has to be false and the other one with a single statement has to be true, because I think this is saying that the black box is false no matter what. No, that would make sense though, because then none of them can be true. Right? Because if this one has a true statement and a false statement, right? And we assume that the top is true and the bottom is false, then this is the false box and this has to be true. But if this is false, then it means that the blue box has the gems. If this is true, it's saying that the black box has the gems. If both... If we assume that the if both of these statements are false here, and saying that the black box is true, that the blue box is empty if it is false. But that would mean that this one has to be lying, saying that the black box is true, so it's saying that the black box is false when it's true, and it contains the gems. I think I'm gonna choose the middle white box, but man, these are getting super difficult. I wouldn't be surprised if I get it wrong. Okay, I got it right. I still don't fully understand how though. So I'm guessing that this box was false, right? Meaning that this one is true because this one's false. Okay. And this one again, this statement up here is false, but this statement right here is true. Okay. Interesting. Do I use the... I'll use a silver key here. Oh, unfortunate. And there ends the run. Well, since we're here, we might as well take another look at the gallery, as much as I hate to waste more time in this room. If any of you are watching live, feel free to give your suggestions as to what this could depict. Human eyes. I wonder if that's something. Oops. Ah! I doubt it is this. Nope. Hmm. So there's a shark fin in the ocean. Nails hammered into a sideways infinity sign, or sorry, just a normal infinity sign, a sideways 8. Upon pedestals. The 7 deadly sins on empty boxes. And a rug. Hmm. Resonate? I don't think that would be it. Nope. Maybe you just look at words ending in 8, right? Hmm. I'm just spitballing ideas. Nope. Ah, I really don't know. As I said, since I have the full list of letters it could possibly be, I'll take a look at it later. But as it stands, I think that's all we can do for this run. So let's call it a day. I think I have one more day in me. Oh, I should end my run in one of the bedrooms to test the validity of that diary. I can do that another day. I should test the Bajor and the Hovel and other rooms that weren't mentioned. Shelter. Well, here's the hovel if I want to try that. Where do we go? Shelter. You see, my thought is that shelter might be nice because it would allow me to like take red rooms and try to shoot up for rank 8. But I think I'll choose the hovel because I don't need to worry about getting gems. I can spend footsteps to hopefully draft rooms that go straight forward. Actually, I should look in the hovel before anything else. Make sure there's nothing I'm missing in there. And the demo items could spawn in the hovel, so that's why I'm curious. I haven't seen any items spawn in here in the real game, though. They could have removed that. Well, that ended quickly. I have exactly 50 stars again. Interesting. Oh man, what a decision. Guess I'll choose Great Hall, and then go back to the start. I feel like the more hallways I get, the easier it will be to just shoot up the middle, because sometimes they can be pointed forwards. I might also need to draft the tune in that run so that I get a couple dice. Or draft the foundation in one of these runs and like get a key card early on somehow. I'm not sure. The empty boxes are both true. The empty boxes are both false. This is not an empty box. So the empty boxes are both true. Then this must be lying. And this is telling the truth. Oh wait, no, this one would be lying too. So there would be no two. There would only be one true box, which can't. Wait, I'm sorry. Oh man, it's getting late. My brain is fried. The empty boxes are both true. Assuming this is true, there must be 2 true boxes, and there'd be only 1 true box. The empty boxes are both false. Assuming this is true, this is false, and this is this would be false. So I think the gems just have to be in this one. Indeed. Ooh, if I get the axe again, I might X the classroom so that I don't need to spend gems to get it. That's a good idea. I'm going to draft the observatory because I've never seen what happens past 51 stars. Okay. So there's the inkwell and just a single star. I wonder if beyond 50 it's just like it resets. with just the inkwell in addition to everything else. Could be the case. Another dartboard puzzle to solve. We'll take it. 7 rounded to the nearest 10th is 10. Okay, so this would be 1, 11, 19, so 30. Minus 4 rounded to the tens place would be 30 still. Then subtract 8 rounded to the tens place would be 20. Subtract 3 rounded to the tens place would be 20 still. 16 times 2 rounded to the tens place would be 30. Divided by 10 rounded, and then divided by 10 would be 3 times 2 would be 6 rounded to the tens place would be 10. Right. Silver key. I don't mind the hallway here. I don't know why I did that when I had Hovel active. Oh well. Oh, you know, there were new letters in the mailroom that I forgot to read. Now that I think about it. Sure. This puzzle is so bugging me, to be honest. I almost don't care if there's power conductivity anywhere. In fact, what I might do is simply go down and set it so that the red door will always be open. Oh, wait. If I do that, the drawbridge, or that closes, huh? Well, I'll draft some and put it back that way. I'll use a key here. Another great hall. Interesting. Sure. Drafting studio or mailroom? Or archives? I'll go for the mailroom. And I can read that letter that I was talking about. Oh my. Okay. Haven't read that one yet. Yes, I have read that one. Although, interesting. I think issue 2 is in the dormitory, and issue 1 was in the drafting studio. So, the information that is given me is like, entirely accurate. Simon, if I'm going to be mentioning members of the staff, perhaps I should give you a brief introduction. Mrs. Anne Babbage, the house manager, my boss. Kirk Darren, head of security. Kirk Darren, head of security. So I wonder if I go to the Blackbridge Grotto and type in like DARRK, if something would happen. Randolph Moore, lead lab technician. So that's whose name I've been using to get into the Blackbridge Grotto, which makes sense. Lead lab technician, network admin, humble author of these letters. Kimberly Thompson, lab assistant and helpful sidekick. Chef de Camp, head of kitchen, maker of tasty meals. Hartley Rauda, the Baron's personal valet, retiring. Christoph, the chauffeur. Robert Nogla, the new groundskeeper. There are a handful of other names among the various live-out and seasonal service staff, but due to their infrequent mention, I thought it best to omit them from this cursory introduction. So I might need to try DARRK in Blackbridge Grotto. Another successful experiment, another letter. You have certainly been keeping yourself busy. As I spent the last few days racking my brain trying to come up with new clues for you, I am reminded of your mother's aptly named book, A New Clue, and how fiendishly she hid the clues for her readers within its pages. Don't worry, I won't be hiding my clues from you in imagery or requiring you to comb through the text with a magnifying glass. The truth is, I'm not nearly as clever or creative as she was. The best I could muster, trying to be cryptic and mysterious, would be something like, break the bricks in the weight room with something that has a handle and is very heavy. I'm afraid that in spite of my best efforts, the result is not quite cryptic and even less mysterious. I suppose I'll leave the riddles to your great uncle and his niece. So I've already seen a new clue and tried my best at deciphering it. Granted, not the best attempt. I've already broken the wall in the weight room. Unused memos. Oh. Okay, wait. Let me look at this first. Dear Simon, as I've been running out of ideas of my own, yesterday I asked Kirk Darren if he had any additional security advice I could pass on, and to my surprise, he gave me an envelope and directed me to include it in my next correspondence to you. I did not ask him what it contained, so I'll be very curious to hear from you after this is all over and find whether or not it was of any use. Until next time, Randolph. Unused memos. Safe code 4368, which doesn't really help because it is not handwritten. The numbers 6, 7, and 9 do not appear in any of the fixed combinations of safes on the estate. Ooh, I'll need to write that down, because that seems to be true. Add to my little sheet of notes. Six, 7, or 9. Very nice. Safe code 1213, but again, that isn't handwritten. Safe code D8, and that is handwritten. But I'm not sure. I haven't seen any safe codes with letters, so I'm unsure. There is a safe on rank 10. Ooh. Okay, that probably opens up when you get the map correct. Interesting. Well, that has been a very helpful letter he sent. Simon, I can't think of any reason you need to access the server administrator controls before I return, but your father has mentioned your interest in computers, so I have a feeling you may be a bit more hands-on than your great uncle. You'll find the admin terminal in Blackbridge Grotto, a small cavern, sealed, much like the story, off to the east drive. I believe I've previously explained how to restore power to the grotto in one of my earlier letters. However, keep in mind that accessing the terminal requires an admin key. Unfortunately, I won't be able to set one up for you until I return, but your admin key will eventually be Joan S., first four letters of your family name. Or, if you would prefer, we could use a pseudonym. I'm sure we'll discuss it in greater detail when I return. Interesting. Simon, if you do end up accessing the admin controls in Blackbridge Grotto, I'm sure you noticed the sealed circular door to the left of the terminal. As you likely have already concluded for yourself, this door can only be opened if 3 different microchips are inserted in the central pedestal. Normally, all 3 microchips are kept secured in 3 other locations, but it is said to make it easy for you and have left one of the microchips in the grotto for ready access. However, you will have to find a new clue or two to find the others. Randolph. Okay, so a new clue should point me to the more microchips. But I don't know what to do with that series of numbers from the new clue. Or exactly how to interpret the letters. Interpret the books. I should say, find the letters that the new clue is pointing me to within the other books. That was fairly helpful. Let's explore the right side down here. I think that's all I can do now. I haven't explored this way. Oh, the foyer. Good. I'll take that. Even though it does cost me a few steps. Go back and open all of these great hall doors. Gems that won't necessarily help me. Another gem. Wonderful. Redraw. Music room. 5 steps left, though. I have a feeling this day might come to an end sooner than later. What was my experiment? Did it never go? Did it never set it up? Guess we'll go for the den. I am at rank 8, so in theory I could draft the dining room. Well, at least this would lead me to the library, so I could do some more reading Realm and Rune. Ugh. Realm and Rune, Sigils of the Past and Present, by Professor R. Willard. Fennaries, Robert and Sons, 1905. Introduction. When the scholars of the First Era found any hidden things, either of a natural source or resulting from the creations of man, they were accustomed to record these in various signs with the aid of figures. They did this in order that the sigils of their realm might not be understood by strangers. Historically speaking, sigils are not a new tradition. They have been found in every era, in every culture, and predate both written text and heraldic arts. However, today, when we use the term sigil, we are referring specifically to realm sigils, those crude circular marks of designation found on royal artifacts, buildings, and older documents. This book was written to make simple the understanding of these fascinating glyphs and to clarify and to clearly display the correlation between each sigil and the iconography of that realm's royal art. How is the image of a leafless burning tree in geometric lines? How is the image of a leafless burning tree seen in geometric lines, and what does that tell us of a kingdom's history? Each line, each circle, and each variation tells the story of the land, and even the adorned borders around the sigil have a special meaning. The sigil. To understand a realm sigil, we must first dismantle the symbol and identify the individual elements that make up the whole. Each sigil is composed of four things: the core, the dividing lines, rays, the moats, and the border. The core. At the center of each sigil is a unique shape different for each realm. If the core gives us a name, then the rest of the sigil tells us the history behind the name. Still, it is important to be able to identify and distinguish the core as the first step in deciphering any sigil, as all the other parts are meaningless if we don't first know the place we are describing. Several example cores taken from well-known sigils: Orinda Aries, Fen Aries, Araja, Korikia, Arch Aries. I need to remember these. I think should be. We've seen these sigils enough to remember. I just need to remember that the V is Korikia. The rays. Sprouting forth from the core will come several dividing lines, splitting the sigil into pieces. From one sigil to another, the rays will often differ in number, style, and form. Studying the differences in these lines will immediately reveal several things about the realm. Transportation. The number of rays. Counting the number of dividing lines in a sigil will reveal to us what the method of transportation was prevalent. Counting the number of dividing lines in a sigil will reveal to us what method of transportation was prevalent in a realm. Were they a seaside kingdom that relied on ships, or a desert domain that might have employed camels to cross the sandy expanse of their lands? Naval capabilities, ship routes, seaports. The 8 rays of the sigil resemble the directions on a compass. Roads, streets, carriages. The 4 rays here look like crossroads on a map. Horseback, rough trails. Another sigil that uses 4 rays. However, these will always be configured to suggest a horse galloping. Train system, locomotion. The 3 rays here are used to sigil 4 realms that rely on track-based travel. Aviation. Dirigibles. Aviation, dirigibles, balloons. The 5 rays here suggest travel above the horizon. Camels, pack mules, arid or desert trails. 2 rays to indicate a flat terrain. Turtleback travel? 5 short rays that do not fully extend from the core to the border. Turtleback travel. Interesting. But it's also interesting that we don't see the rays that correspond to Orindia. Because that was like 1 line at the bottom and the 4 lines above. No, sorry, it was train system. It was this bottom left one. That's right. Weather. The style of ray. Identifying the style of ray used in the sigil will show us whether or show us what weather the kingdom considered native. Some are intuitive, like the jagged lightning-shaped lines to indicate stormy lands. Straight black lines indicate lack of unusual or harsh weather and normal temperatures. Foggy or misty weather is indicated when the rays have several horizontal slashes across one side. Wavy lines are used to indicate extreme heat. The scorched air and bleeding sun cause the otherwise straight rays to appear shimmering. A rainy realm is indicated with rays of 3 vertical lines pouring down. For more extreme stormy weather, a jagged lightning-shaped ray is used. A ray dotted with falling circles is used for colder realms in which snow is a common occurrence. Windy weather is displayed on sigils by the use of bent curved lines, rays buckling under the high winds. Motes. On each sigil, floating between the rays, are small figures called motes. From the shape and style of the motes used on a sigil, we can tell the type of society a given realm proclaimed, if they considered themselves mighty in arms or blessed by artistic and economic fortune. A little star tribal, a primitive realm, hunter and gatherers, agricultural, harvest and farming based society and culture. Martial, militaristic nation engaged in generations spanning wars and heated arguments. Metropolitan, large city state with a dense urban and populous center. Academic, a center for knowledge, advanced in various scholarly pursuits. These realms are home to many schools, universities, and libraries, which makes me think of oh boy, Corikia. Yeah, Corarica. It seems like that's probably a academic society. Industrial, engineering-driven culture with a focus on manufacturing, invention, and production. Spiritual, an elevated reverence for nature, animals, and the forces that guide us. Poetic, a strong focus on the advancement of the arts, writing, music, and language. The border. Around each sigil is an adorned edge serving as a container for information within. There are 8 different borders, each one corresponding to a different color. These borders always correspond to the banner and national colors of that specific realm. Black, red, violet, pink, green, yellow, orange, white. Interesting. Okay. Putting it all together, by studying the core, rays, motes, and borders of a sigil, you should now be able to unlock the meaning behind what had previously been an undecipherable enigma. Fen areas, the grand realm. Transportation, road/carriage. Weather, foggy. Society, militaristic. Banner, red. Okay. Well, let me pull up my little screenshot again. So this one was green, I believe. Yes. So page C, word A. Trying to think how we did the blueprints one. I think we started at the. Did we start at the back or the front in order to get where we got? I think we started at the front. So page C, word A. So page C. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Word A would be describing. No, sorry, it would be we. That doesn't seem right. page C, word A. It could also be the very end. I just don't know. It's so strange. Well, I've gone through it all now, so I have it on recording. For better or for worse. That's all we can do today. Well, I would like to play another run, but it's getting late, so I think I'm going to call it quits here. If you enjoyed watching the stream, then I would appreciate it if you dropped a follow. That would be quite awesome. And if you enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe. And with that, goodbye, everybody.